Hey there. Today we have a Florida case that I'd like to go over. This is a real court case that happened in 1995. In 1995, a Scientologist was convicted of sexually molesting his young stepdaughters. His wife stated under oath that the Church of Scientology ordered her not to report it. This is the state of Florida versus Donald Anthony Strawn. A Scientologist by the name of Donald Anthony Strawn, also known as Tony Strawn, was convicted in 1995 to 35 years in prison for sexually molesting two girls, age 11 and 13. The children were in his custodial care at the time. Here's some footnotes I want to make clear here. M was the younger daughter. A was the older daughter. The family lived in ClearWater, Florida, which is home to the Flag Service Organization, the spiritual headquarters of the Church of Scientology. Tony was the name by which Donald Anthony Strawn was known. This is Robert Safal, or Future Films fame. Tillman asked someone unrelated to this issue. The full name is probably Sergio Mora, unless there are more than one chaplains named Sergio at Flag. I'm just reading the footnotes so that way things make a little bit more sense. This is probably not the name Ken Long, who posted on the Alt Religion Scientology site. Since discovering this court case, of course, the critics of Scientology on the internet have sent copies of the documents to the media, including the St. Pete Times. If the media does nothing with it, I shall add web pages about their coverage. So let's go back to reading this with those little notes in mind. The reason that these documents are included in this website is because the Church of Scientology directed that the mother not report the incident to the proper authorities because the church could, quote unquote, handle Strawn's, quote unquote, aberration. This act is a federal crime in the United States of America. These documents come from the filings in the case CRC 94 12575 CFANO. And the originals are in the Felony Records Department of the Pinellas County Criminal Court. Because of the victims' ages, their full names have been stricken from these copies of the documents as has the name of the mother. The criminal complaint. The information in the criminal complaint against Strawn filed by State Attorney Bernie McCabe. Where do we know that name from? It alleges 3 capital felony charges of sexual battery and 1 first-degree felony charge of sexual activity. We know that name from Lisa McPherson trial. The felony charge of sexual activity. Strawn pleaded guilty to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th counts, but pleaded guilty to a lesser charge on the 1st count, which is identical in all respects to the 2nd. The court docket. The case progress docket. Of interest is the latest entry at the top of the file. Though Strawn pled guilty, he is nevertheless appealing the judgment. Deposition excerpts. The mother's deposition accuses the Church of Scientology of recommending that capital and first-degree felonies committed by Strawn not be reported to the proper authorities. This follows the Scientology policy that all legal matters must be handled internally rather than the non-Scientologist legal system, and illustrates their means of enforcing the policy. U.S. Code excerpts. This page contains excerpts from the U.S. Code which show the federal laws that were broken by the Church of Scientology when they advised the mother not to report Strawn to the police for molesting her children. So that is the main summary of the docket. I'm going to go to some excerpts of the, let me get to it. Of the case itself. It's quite long. Here are the excerpts from the legal documents taken in the case of Florida versus Donald Anthony Strawn. Its importance lies in the fact that in it, the deponent, Strawn's wife at the time, accuses the Church of Scientology of recommending that a capital felony not be reported to the police. Important parts of the deposition pertaining to this fact have been given additional emphasis with boldface. Because the victims were minors, their full names have been stricken from the document. And let's read these. Page 12, line 4. That's all I remember about the conversation in the bedroom. I told him as I was leaving out of the house, that he had to be gone, that he had to leave, that I was going to the church, that if he was not gone by the time I got back, that I would call the police. Question: did you take the girls with you? Answer: no, I didn't. Question: how long were you gone? Answer: probably about 30 or 45 minutes. I got down to the church and I went in to see the chaplain at the Church of Scientology. After I calmed down a bit, I called the house. I realized I left my kids and I tried to call the house and there was no answer. I called back and M was upset. She answered the phone. She was crying and she said that A ran away. I went and jumped in the car and broke every speed limit between the Church of Scientology and my house. Question: had you met with the chaplain that night? Answer: I saw somebody. It was an assistant chaplain or something, and I was actually in the office when I was calling home. I got back home and A was at home. I got the girls and I left. Question: was Tony there or was he gone? Answer: yes, he was packing his belongings. I assume that means he was there because he was packing his belongings. Question: did you have any further discussion with him? Answer: no, I didn't even see him. He was in the room, in our bedroom, with the door closed, packing. Question: did A at the time tell you what had been going on? Answer: that day. Question: at that time? Answer: yes, she told me. M told me as well. Question: when is it that A told you? Answer: you have to remember my life at the time was a total blur. I don't remember dates or times. I know that I discussed the matter with my children. The reason I waited 6 weeks to turn him in, was because of the Church of Scientology. Question: how long have you been a Scientologist? Answer: I am not a Scientologist now. When I met Tony, I was introduced to the Church of Scientology. At that time, I became a Scientologist. Question: were the children also? A. Answer: I guess you'll have to ask them. They did take some courses with the Church of Scientology. Question: when you say you became one, what does that involve, becoming a Scientologist? Answer: well, you just have to make a decision that you're going to be a Scientologist, and they have different technologies, and you read and apply them to your life. And sometimes you take courses at the church. Sometimes you get auditing, which is similar to counseling. Question: okay, so you wanted to go through the church? Answer: I had to. I had to go through the church. The Church of Scientology has a tenet. To the best of my knowledge and the way I understood it, if you have any legal matter with a fellow Scientologist, you're to take it to the Church of Scientology. If you don't, you risk being what is called declared or thrown out of the Church of Scientology. Now, that matters nothing to me, but what did matter to me was the fact that I was working as a director in a company, and the owner of the company are Scientologists. In fact, the majority of employees are Scientologists. Question: what company? Answer: Robert Kafal and Associates. Question: how long have you been working there? Answer: at that time, 3 years. Question: okay, so you thought your job might be in jeopardy? Answer: my job was in jeopardy because what happens is if you're declared or thrown out of the church, then other Scientologists cannot be in touch with you. They can't talk to you. They can't have anything to do with you, or they risk being thrown out of the church. Question: had you ever had any legal matters before? Answer: no. Question: that went through the church? Answer: no. Question: okay, so how did you proceed with that? Answer: for 6 weeks, I tried to get him thrown out of the church so that I could turn him in without any repercussions. I worked with the Church of Scientology's legal office. It's called the Office of Special Affairs, or OSA, O-S-A. I worked with the Church of Scientology for quite some time. Many days I was down there, as a matter of fact, trying to get them to take some kind of action. The Church of Scientology recommended that I not turn him in. Question: why? Answer: because they could handle it. They could handle his aberrations. They could handle what made him to do this. They said that if I turned him in, my children would be taken away from me by HRS, because HRS is always looking for a criminal. They told me that Tony would be stuck to me for lifetimes because I had done this, because I had turned him in. They told me that they would be turned over to the psychs, or the psychiatrists. I was very manipulated during that period of time. Question: had you told the children not to discuss this with anyone else? Answer: I may have told them not to discuss it with their friends. Question: were they involved in any kind of counseling? Answer: not at this time. Question: anywhere? Answer: not at that time. Question: did the counselor or Scientologist try to get you and Tony together to discuss this? Answer: yeah. Question: what do they do there? Answer: I think there is a chaplain's meeting, and I think this is the most cruel thing that anybody could ever do. I wanted to go ahead and get the divorce because I wouldn't be contested. I knew if I locked him up, he would be contesting, and I wanted the divorce. So I arranged through the chaplain the procedure for the divorce. And in the Church of Scientology, you have the documents drawn up, and then you go into the church and both parties sign, and there's what is called a chaplain's hearing. And they sit there and discuss disposition of properties, custody issues, child support issues, etc. I went in and I was trying to get my divorce paper signed, and the church and the people were dealing with it. Chaplain Sergio, I don't remember the last name, he couldn't find Tony. He didn't know where to get in touch with Tony. The ethics officer didn't know where to get in touch with Tony. So I had to actually go over where he was working and tell him he had to meet me at the church. I went to the church to get him to sign the divorce papers, and I sat there and I pretended like everything was rosy. I asked him about M and what he had done with M, and he told me, yes, it was true, and that he had written up everything, and that he had turned it all into the ethics officer. I could get copies of the report so I would know what really was going on in my house, so I could handle my kids. I'm sorry, but this son of a bitch ain't got a clue as to what he did to my girls. Question: did you ever get a hold of that? Answer: no, I didn't. I didn't want to. I don't want any justification for this. There are no justifications for what he did to my kids. Question: so what happened at this hearing then? Answer: well, we sat down, and there were some pretty emotional things that went on. I was pretty angry. What occurred was we decided what property was going to stay mine, what property was going to be his, and what I was to bring to the church to give to him after the divorce. And then he signed on the dotted line. Okay. Question: okay. Was there any discussion of the allegations at that time? Answer: yes, when I asked him about M and what he had done to M. Question: was this done in front of the others? Answer: this was done in front of the chaplain. Question. So any discussion about any action that you were going to take regarding this? Answer. No, actually, because I didn't want him to know that I was going to take my action because I wanted him to sign the divorce papers. Question. Okay. After you got the divorce papers signed, did you continue to participate in the Scientologist activities? Answer. At that point, I was still trying to get them to throw him out of the church. I finally had a conversation with Ken Long. He's with the Office of Special Affairs International with the Church of Scientology, and I asked him point blank. I said, if I turn him in, even if he's declared, would I be declared? And he said, most definitely, not for the act of turning him in itself, but for the repercussions thereof. He was talking about the PR, the public relations, and the St. Pete Times news media. And I'm sorry, but in my heart and in my mind, I said, fuck it. Question. Okay, did you call the police? Answer. No. What I did was I waited until August 9th, which was after. I think I had conversation with him on the 4th of August or something like that. I would have to get my phone bills to verify, but the next day was A's birthday, and I didn't want to do anything on her birthday, so we waited until the Saturday, the 6th of August. I went down to the sheriff's office and I reported him. Question. Okay, in the course of this time period, did any allegations regarding M come up? How did this come up? Answer. I don't remember when I found out that he had done something to M. I don't even remember how I found out. I know that in the Church of Scientology write reports. They're called knowledge reports. And I remember after, sometimes I initially found out I had been having a hard time confronting, I didn't want to hear from her exactly what he had done to her because, quite frankly, I was afraid I would kill him. And I remember M didn't want to write a report. And so I told her, because I felt like it was necessary to write a report to the Church of Scientology, because I was trying to get him thrown out. I told her, I said, well, look, you just tell me what happened and I'll write it down verbatim. We're going to pause there. So I looked up Donald Anthony Strawn because he was convicted on 4 counts. Well, 3 counts. The 4th was included in one of the other ones, and was convicted for 30 years. And looked up for the corrections system of Florida. And this is what I found. Here's a picture of Donald A. Strawn, black male, birth date. He was released 5/30/2013. So 18 years he spent out of the 30. Status residence upon release. Alias Donald Strawn, Donald A. Strawn, Donald Anthony Strawn. Here are the 4 convictions in 1995 in Pinellas County. This is the right person. Offense date was 1/1/94. That's when the mom went and reported it. The Florida Department of Corrections, where did it say here? This offender meets the criteria for designation as sexual offender under Statute 944.606 FS or Statute 944-607 FS, or both, and may be on the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Sexual Offender Predatory website. And going to go there, stop screen, present. Got to walk myself through it. in here. Let's do a search on here. Donald Strawn. Search. No results found for the search. He might have had, I've never heard of that, but he might have had to where he's taken off after so much time, because it has been since 13, so it's been 11 years. Now let's go look on Truth of Scientology. I'll get you in there. Hold on, you guys. The truth about Scientology. I'm going to share screen. Let's see if we come up with any information on this. Share screen. Share. Let's search the database. Tony Strawn. So 87 and 88. Of course, that doesn't mean he didn't take other ones. This just happens to be just the published. Hubbard Ethics Specialist course and the PTSSP course Part 1. That's in 87 and 88. So that was after the girls were born. Interesting. Very interesting. So let's look at some of these crimes, and I'll list them down in there. Of course, the church itself did not do the molestation or the sexual assault of the girls, but they were on record accused of impeding an investigation and obstruction of justice, and via that, child abuse, child neglect. So definitely some crimes there. I will post links to all of these documents down below in the description for you. And I'd like to hear, this was the time when several people we know were in Flag. They're in Clearwater, and it would be nice to get some update from them. So thank you, and we'll do an update on this one.